Welcome, everybody, to the TPA Presents event. We're so happy to have you here and certainly to have our special guest, who I'll introduce shortly. In today's recorded event, we'll be hearing from experts on how to monetize as an indie podcaster. And again, our special expert, big suspense here. Her name is Michelle Jackson. She's right there. You can see her. She has been there, done that, and is doing it sustainably and realistically. So I'm super pumped to have her here. This event is co-presented by our friends at the BLK Pod Collective. So again, shout out, feel free to give some shine to BLK Pod Collective in that chat if Anna sent you our way. Grateful to you all. We want to also thank our community building sponsor, Wondery, for underwriting this program. We offer monthly webinars and networking opportunities virtually and in person, so stay tuned for those. TPA, if you haven't heard of us, is a 1,000-strong virtual community across the world. And if you aren't yet a member, welcome. We're happy to have you. And why aren't you a member already? Well, I'm going to answer that question because you haven't gotten the discount code, which you will get at the end of this. So anyway, that's just a little sneak peek. Members are able to, as I mentioned, see all pre-recorded programs in our member portal. Other benefits include being able to be participants in voting and reviewing for the AMBIs, the Oscars of podcasting, and also getting a mentor. In fact, our speaker, who I'm keeping you in suspense to be introduced, did in fact mentor. That is the caliber of talent we have here at the Podcast Academy. So I'm really proud and grateful. Do not sleep on that, TPA members. If you were considering signing up, signups end this week. Really quickly, if you're not already following us, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Not TikTok yet, even though we have had a really great clinic that makes a strong case for why TikTok helps promote your stuff. Where can you find that? Well, members, go review that in the TPA member portal, resources, recorded events. All righty, I have done enough talking. It is time to pass this over to our wonderful speaker, Michelle Jackson, who is an award-winning podcaster and content creator, creating in multiple niches. She was also the founder of Podcasters Getting Paid. I love to hear that. A resource for small podcasters, small in scope, but y'all are a big deal. I just wanted to say that. We all wanted to say that. Michelle was a mentor for the 2023 Spring Mentorship Program cohort. Thank you, Michelle. Your mentees absolutely love the experience. Just want to say that on the record. Yay. And when Michelle's not creating, you can find her hiking, check out that beautiful background, enjoying coffee. I think, Michelle, you said you've had coffee in your hand, and exploring your state of Colorado, which she represents. So I am going to recede into the background as promised. I'm going to stop screen sharing, and I'm going to go right ahead and pass this on back to Michelle. So let me just go ahead and do that. Michelle, thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I am so excited to run this workshop. I've tweaked this one. So what I've decided to do is spend about 20 to 25 minutes actually teaching and running, the workshop, and then the rest will be questions. I think a lot of times people don't have enough time to ask questions. So I'm going to kind of blaze through, and then we're going to really just go through your questions for like 40 minutes. So with that, and also because it's also hard to follow the chat and run the presentation. So with that in mind, I'm going to share my screen. Please feel free to laugh at all my tabs. It's a thing. I have a billion tabs. And it's how it is. All right. Also, do not log off if my screen gets slow, because I am in the mountains right now, and so the video could get a little slow. If the audio is still working, just stick with me. So again, my name is Michelle Jackson. I'm running today's workshop on monetization strategy for the indie podcaster. The question you're probably asking yourself if you are here is, can you make money podcasting? And sorry, I'm always slow at the beginning. This is my expression whenever I hear when people ask this question, and I'm like, yes, you can. Yes, you can make money podcasting, but there's some things to consider. We're going to talk about that as we go through this conversation and session. So here's the thing, small podcasters and content creators, because that's really what you are as a content creator, you can make money podcasting. You need a strategy. It will be work because nothing comes easy. And quite frankly, a closed mouth does not get fed. Please, for the love of God, stop listening to people who share supposed rules. If they share the rules. I see this a lot in a lot of podcasting communities, actually, where people will be like, you shouldn't start monetizing until you have 10,000 monthly downloads. The reason why I started my project because I was making money and I was nowhere near 10,000 downloads an episode or even a month. Please stop believing that your platform has to be perfect before you start. Quite frankly, you need to start in order to perfect the platform. If you've got like Virgo tendencies and you just have to have everything perfect, you will never make money online. It just won't happen. Don't be afraid to experiment. Experimentation is key for everything. Like, you have to experiment in order to figure out the thing that's going to work best for you. Be careful. This is a huge one. You definitely need to discuss your monetization aspirations, but you need to be careful with who you speak to about them. So you need to be in like a mastermind group or with other folks who are aligned with you. You shouldn't be talking to someone who has no idea what you're doing, who doesn't believe in what you're doing, or is confused by what you're doing. So be really careful about when you start monetizing who you talk to about it. That's me hiking. A little bit about myself. I started as a blogger. So I did not start as a podcaster. I started blogging in 2012 in the personal finance space. I began my first podcast around 2017. It's been a while, so I can't remember. My first podcast brand partnership or ad really was $150 for my Colorado podcast. And I was getting 15 downloads an episode. I needed money. and I was like, I'm going to ask. And this is why I say a closed mouth doesn't get fed. I was also at that time making money freelance writing, affiliate marketing. I was doing other random projects that brought in revenue. But I do want to say that bringing in money and cash flow are two different things. And I'm going to touch on that as we have our conversation. I've won some awards, such as back-to-back awards in the Plutus Awards content for awards for best current events content related to personal finance 2020 and 2021. I won an award for women in content marketing in 2021 as well. And I was nominated for personal finance podcast of the year in 2021 as well. So I have a small but mighty personal finance show, but I actually have other projects that I work on as well. This year, I was a spring 2023 mentor for the Podcast Academy, creator of Podcasters Getting Paid. And I've also presented at the following conferences. So I'm trying to give you my street cred. Outliers Festival Denver, Podcast Movement Orlando, Podcast Movement Nashville, Podcast Movement Denver. I'll be speaking this August. Podcast Movement Evolutions Los Angeles, Podcast Movement Evolutions Las Vegas, FinCon. I'll be speaking at FinCon New Orleans if you're in the personal finance space, Afros and Audio. So I've talked about monetization and other topics for a while, which is why it's a topic I'm very passionate about. So how have I even made money online? I've done affiliate marketing, newsletter and email marketing, sponsorships, workshops, events, freelance writing. I have written both fiction and nonfiction, and I actually write romances for the fiction. That paid my mortgage during COVID, by the way. So love freelance writing. I love fiction writing. I've sold courses, coaching, affiliate marketing, ad revenue, and events. These are some of the brands that I've also partnered with. These are not all of the brands. I've worked with Fjallraven. If you're from Colorado, you can appreciate this one. Fjallraven, Refiley, Pollen, Swell AI, Podcast Movement, Catch. Experian, which everyone should know because they're the credit people, Harlow. Sorry, I was traveling quite a bit this weekend, so I'm still a little tired, so I apologize. But currently my monetization strategy is focused on newsletters, affiliate marketing, ad revenue on my personal websites, workshops, brand partnerships, sponsorships, specific to projects that I'm doing, my newsletter, my podcast, ad revenue, specific to my podcast, and that's plural because I have more than one. Crowdfunding, I have a specific project related to podcasting that I have decided to crowdfund on. I've crowdfunded before, so definitely I have thoughts on how that works. And grants, shout out to my friend Danielle Desir, who runs Grants for Creators. So she is my resource for finding grant opportunities. You'll notice the first three monetization ideas are MRR, which are monthly recurring revenue. So I'm also the creator and founder of Podcasters Getting Paid, which is a resource for smaller podcasts, like folks who are getting fewer than 10,000 downloads a month. So this workshop, very quickly, we're going to talk about strategy. I'm going to share some tips, and then we're going to spend a lot of time just Q&A, but like think of it as a mastermind. So this is, I don't do pick your brains, to be candid. This is that time, and I will answer the questions. So here's the number one mistake that most podcasters make that I've noticed, which is they think way too narrowly about their brand and their platform. Most podcasters, when I talk to them, they think very narrowly about what they're doing. They only talk about their podcast. They don't talk about any other thing that they've developed, such as unique tools, courses, websites, cool communities that they've developed, email lists, newsletters, their show. They're very like, I just podcast. And that is a huge mistake. You're more than just your podcast. In fact, the first tip is to broaden your perspective. You're not just a podcaster. You're an entertainer, an educator, a community builder, an advocate, a voice, a representative, a guide, a translator. You're one of those things or several of those things. So definitely be aware of that as you are thinking about how making money with your project looks like. This is whether or not you are doing a sci-fi project, if you're doing business, if you're doing romance. And the reason why I say this is I have 4 podcasts. I have one about personal finance. I don't teach money. I talk about money and policy. I have another podcast about Colorado. I have another one about online business, and I have another one about romance because I have a romance project. And what I've noticed is that positioning is everything, and being aware that how you show up for your audience helps to influence the ways you can make money. Tip number 2 is you need to decide on on your monetization strategy and what is your preferred revenue stream. So I kind of briefly said you need to not be afraid to experiment. You're probably going to be experimenting to see like which one's a good fit for you. So it could be, affiliate marketing, product sales, preferably digital. I just, in the beginning, you want digital products. So those could be courses, ebooks, workshops, coaching, ad revenue, email or newsletter funnels, and making money that way. Services, speaking gigs, brand partnerships, sponsorships, memberships. So you've got to kind of decide like which one or which ones resonate with you and your brand and your platform. My personal favorite way to make money online is a mix of products. And the reason why is things change throughout the year. One way of making money might kind of dry up because of time of year. There's seasonality to things. In the summer, for example, people are vacationing. I literally flew in last night and I got up early this morning and I'm in the mountains going to another vacation. So you have multiple products so that you can reach people at different points in their journey. and actually at different points in their finances as well, because for me personally, I don't want to offer a $3,000 item if someone just started with whatever they're starting with a month ago. Like that just feels kind of gross. I also strongly recommend that you have at least one product, good or service that pays predictable revenue. This was a huge mistake personally that I made. You need something like an email market. You need to do email marketing or a newsletter, ad revenue, membership program, ebook sales, course sales. With course sales or workshop sales, that has to be an evergreen funnel because you're trying to create like predictable revenue. The products, goods, or services must be easy for you to deliver. And then finally, a unique offering that helps you stand out from the crowd. So an example of that would be grants for creators. Again, I've already mentioned that. Podcasters getting paid. I Find You Close, which is a really cool resource that connects people with speaking gigs. So depending on where you are in the world and the niche that you're in, there might be some kind of unique thing to you that you could create. Again, if you are in the Star Trek space, I'm a huge Trekkie, so I might talk about Star Trek a lot. Maybe there's a whole like unique offering around cosplay for Trekkies. I don't know. Don't be narrow in your scope of creativity because we're in a creative space. Once you've decided on a monetization strategy and like an offering, you need to focus on a system that helps you scale. That's, I think, also difficult. So example, affiliate marketing. A lot of people get excited about affiliate marketing, but they don't seem to understand that they have to share their preferred affiliates over and over again before they start converting into sales. So just really understanding that in order to get the end result, you're going to have to put in the work. And that's just the reality of it. And then make sure you're studying the logistics related to growing revenue for each monetization process. So you're going to have to dedicated time to research. I still actively research the different things that I'm doing. Right now, for me, I'm really focused on growing newsletters and search engine optimization, SEO, because of the way that I'm monetizing my platform. And during Q&A, you can ask me more about that, but I don't want to cut into this time. Mistake number 2 is unrealistic expectations. I'm going to be blunt. It will take you longer than you think to grow your income. There's kind of like a flat line of growth, and then it can be exponential. And so many content creators will quit, not quite, but will quit right before they'll hit the results that they're working towards. I've heard this often that, again, they'll be working for years and then there's just exponential growth. So I want to caution people in making sure to have realistic expectations of how long it can take to make money with your online projects. You have to allocate the right amount of time. The other thing I would say is if you are focusing on multiple projects at the same time, you will definitely slow down your hoped for results. I'm a multi-passionate creative. This has been my experience. I'm glad that I've done it the way that I've done it, but just be aware that if you are focusing on multiple things at the same time, it will slow down your progress. Excuse me. I would allocate 6 months to a year testing out a monetization stream. That is just honest. I am right now testing out my newsletter. I now believe that it's good to continue with. But I allocated basically a year to make that decision. I know it sucks, right? But it's honest. Tip number 3 is set achievable goals and reasonable expectations. So when you're setting these timeframes to achieve results, just be kind to yourself as you're doing this. If you set a time frame that just is insane, you're going to stress out, it's not worth it, and you're going to hate life. So for me, this is a framework that I work with. You don't have to, but I set aside about 3 months just to start building momentum. Can I stick with the plan? 6 months, is it making a little bit of money and continuing to build momentum? 9 months, how much income is it even making? Is it making any income? And then finally, just setting reasonable goals. So if I if I start a monetization process and I'm like, I have to make $10,000 next month, that might be really unrealistic depending on the type of product or project that I'm trying to make money with. So like, use your common sense or else you're gonna burn out fast. Mistake number 3. This is actually huge. I should have had this be the first one. Focusing on the wrong things. Social media follows won't make money without a strategy. Period. Social media is a huge distraction for most people, and it does nothing for them. Yes, you do need to have a social presence. No, you don't need to be in there all day long. It's a complete waste of time. So yes, I am on social media. No, that is not anything I'm heavily focused on for 2023. I ran a recent workshop where I talked about the fact that I'm really focused on search engine optimization and other ways to get people to my platforms, such as doing this workshop in front of the TPA community. And the reason why is not everyone on social media is my ideal customer or my ideal audience for what I'm trying to do. Conference attendance. Is it making you money or is it a huge distraction as well? Pick your brains and research. So it could be that people are picking your brains and that has become a distraction to you, or you are doing an endless amount of research and you're not taking action, and that's a huge distraction to you. So either side of the coin, you need to figure out which one is a distraction and cut it loose. In 2024, I am not attending any conferences. So there's that. I am not attending conferences. Even this year, I cut some out because I felt that they were a distraction and they were not helping me get to my bottom line. The other distraction would be, or wrong thing to focus on, is a product or service that you sell, but it doesn't inspire you. So I used to sell courses. I don't love course sales anymore. I just don't. I don't enjoy them. So now I run workshops and I love running workshops. It's a much easier lift for me. So that is something I've broken up with. I don't like freelance writing anymore because I've done it for 8 years. So I'm transitioning out of that. I'm so much happier. I'm still writing, but I'm doing something different with that skill. So if you're focusing on the wrong thing, you need to kind of ask yourself.
Folks, thank you so much for your patience. I'm going to hit pause on the recording. It looks like we're having some technical difficulties, but in the meantime, just one moment, please.
Okay, so tip number 4, and thank you everybody for that. Do the work. So ask yourself what is actually making you money and double down on that. Stop being distracted by the things that are not moving you forward. So this is very true. What you focus on ideally will grow. So be very careful of splitting your focus. I just want to make sure. Be very careful of splitting your focus. All actions that you take should go back to your one goal. So for example, this is tip number 5, everything must support your ultimate goal. So I'm going to give you some examples. If you're trying to make money, then your content should be focused on attracting income, such as sponsors, affiliates, ads, etc. Search. Event attendance should be making money. So by this, what I mean is when I attend conferences, I'm not attending conferences anymore just to attend. I attend conferences and my goal is always to make money when I'm at the conference. It could be to meet a potential brand partner. It could be to find, and actually I'm going to be very transparent. I'm going to be at Podcast Movement in August. It's in my hometown in Denver. So I would be there no matter what, but I am also sharing a product. I will be branded so that people know that I have that product. And my goal will be to be in the black for that event and then exceed that spending that I made. I want to get signups for my products. So I'm not just attending events to attend events at this point. I'm attending and looking to make sales. Social media, if this is making money as your goal, sales. Like, are you doing things to get sales, or are you just chit-chatting about nothing? Marketing, your ad spend should be getting people to make purchases. If you're doing interviews on other people's podcasts, it should lead to a product funnel. If your ultimate goal is publicity, then you should be getting guests from Quoted. Quoted is amazing for guests. You should be using Haro, which is a lot of work, but is sometimes very good. You should be doing high profile collaborations. So when I worked with Experian, that was a pretty big deal. Speaking gigs, unique marketing initiatives. If you're trying to get subscribers, content should be focused on attracting subscribers, sponsors, affiliates, ads, whatever. You need to be focused on that. If you're trying to get subscribers, maybe you design a digital event, and in order to attend, you have to subscribe to attend the digital event. If you are on social media, but you're trying to get subscribers, then the only link on your social media should go to your opt-in. If you're trying to share if you're sharing any kind of marketing collateral, again, that's, if your goal is subscribers, then it should be to get people to subscribe. So I'm being like very redundant in this, but everything you're doing should go back to the goal. If you're trying to get page views or podcast downloads, SEO, content design, calls to action. So one of the things I realized, one of the projects I'm working on now is page views for my Colorado website, but I have a podcast for that. So the only thing that I'm doing is trying to get page views. But in that podcast, the call to action is only going to be go to my website. That's it. I'm going to try to drive people to my website to grow those page views, because that's the only goal. Collaborations, get people to the page views or the podcast downloads. So again, in order to be clear about this, you have to sit down and kind of write this out so that you know what you're doing, and you don't get distracted and you don't kind of veer from the goal. That is it. That is the session. We're going to start talking about Q&A. Connect with me. Again, I run Podcasters Getting Paid, michellesmoneyhungry.com, michellesmoneyhungry.substack.com. The Brand Building Lab is where I talk all things online, brand building, monetization, things like that. If you're like, I want to know about Michelle's other projects, I do Michelle's Money Hungry. I don't teach money. I talk about personal finance from a social equity, access, and policy perspective, and subversive finance topics. And if you love Colorado, Square State Colorado, and it's squarestateco.com. And that is it for sharing. Let's do Q&A.
Love it. Thank you so much, Michelle. Feel free to come on video if you want. I think your audio is still a little bit in and out, but I'm hearing everything pretty well. We did have a really great question that Stephanie sent through, so I'll read it aloud and then you can answer it. People, please continue to submit those questions through Q&A. Michelle has totally blocked off a lot of time for that, and we're super happy to have you here. So with all the Substacks Beehive talk going on, do you suggest that having that in addition to an email newsletter? She's mentioning how she likes Substack and Beehive having the swap and referral options, for example, Michelle. So what are, I guess, are the pros and cons of just an email newsletter using just the traditional channels? Maybe you can name those. Oh, and we've lost Michelle. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and invite folks to speculate on maybe what are the benefits of Substacks versus the traditional one. I know that Angie Coley, one of our attendees, had said that a lot of people send a newsletter to an email list, and then many don't like maintaining email lists, so they focus on growing paid newsletters. And we have Michelle back. Michelle, how you doing? I think we'll just give her a second to connect to her audio.
Sad.
It's all good. This is the era we're in. It's all good. And Michelle, so
Okay.
we were just asking a question about Substack and Beehives. Tell us your thoughts about the swap and referral options, the benefits, and other thoughts for Substacks and Beehives.
Okay, so I love newsletters. One thing I will say, in my view, a newsletter is just a pretty email list with different functionality. I think people way overthink this. I have a blog post that I wrote about this. But most people, if they're really focused on the 10% that is charged. Okay, so this is downside. Substack in particular does charge 10% if you are getting subscribers and things like that. But quite frankly, it makes no sense to just monetize just with the subscriber fee. Like that doesn't make sense. So I monetize my Substack in a lot of different ways. I have affiliates. I have workshops that I run. I have the subscription. So I far exceed the amount that little percentage is being, that the percentage being charged for me to host my newsletter with the Substack platform. Do you know what I mean? So if you are only trying to get subscribers and you're afraid to monetize in any other way, it makes no sense to do a newsletter or an email list. It means you're scared. So if you have an email list or a newsletter, you should be monetizing in multiple ways in order to defray the carrying costs of those platforms. So an email list, you're going to have to pay a subscription each month to have that list. And as that list grows, you're going to have to pay for that anyway. So you should be monetizing with affiliate marketing, course sales, if you have courses, special events, things like that. So coaching, like there's all these different things that I do that far exceeds that little 10% that is being charged. So I love it. Do I see myself being on Substack forever? Hell no. I think that there is a point where you absolutely must be on your own platform. But it is definitely it is definitely expensive once you hit like 50,000, subscribers. It's ridiculous. But you should be monetizing in different ways. So
yeah, and Michelle, I subscribe to your newsletters, and I really love how you integrate all that. So I might recommend, if you want to see it in action. I'm not plugging Michelle because that's the role, but I really do think that she shows you exactly what she's describing, how she's monetizing that way. Great question. Then Jade has a really great question that kind of dovetails into that. I've tried doing newsletters, especially through my author website. So this is a writer, but I never know what to put in it. So which would work best in a newsletter? Speaking about the content in those newsletters, which you did touch on.
I mean, again, let's we're overthinking this. A newsletter is an email list, and anyone on here needs one. You need one of those. I run both a newsletter and email list depending on what I'm doing. So I'm going to give some examples, and then I'm going to talk about, from an author perspective, what it's like to email my author list. So my author list, I write romances. They're a lot of fun, and I self-publish romances on Amazon under a pen name. Because it's a pen name, I have to kind of market it differently, because I want it completely separate from the things that I'm doing using my real name, which is Michelle Jackson. When I email my romance list, it's like, you don't overthink this. Ask them how they're doing. How did you enjoy the last book? What genre?
I should have a little music as we stand by, but it sounds like Michelle's kind of moving you through like the different type of content that she would navigate. And again, if you're having difficulty submitting questions, you notice a friend in the chat, please feel free to submit on their behalf. That's totally fine too. Welcome back, Michelle. I think you were wrapping up the answer to content to put in a newsletter. We have about 3 or 4 more really meaty questions, so move right along.
Okay. So, you email the way you would talk. You don't email like an email list or a newsletter is not transactional. And I think that's the problem. Most people, yes, Amanda rocks. Most people, when they're working with their list, they're transactional, and that's why they don't work. You have to use it. You have to approach it intentionally and in a relational like way of focus. So when I'm emailing my romance people, I'm not like, hey, buy my books. That's not how it works. It's like, how are you guys doing? What's going on? Here's a picture of like a hike that I did. Like, it's very like, as a person who's getting to know them. For my business emails and newsletters, I do something kind of similar, like what's going on. Here's something that didn't work for me. Like, I will definitely talk about how I had a tech fail with this, because it happens, and like how to, not have that happen again. Like, you have to just be human, and that helps to convert those subscribers to purchasers. The other thing I would say is, when I run a newsletter, like my romance newsletter, I just link to the different books. I let them know about new books that are being written. I'm writing I will tell you, I'm writing a Wolf Shifter romance for October. I'm going to start getting them excited about it. So get people excited about it. If you focus on it in a way where it's transactional, it's just not going to work.
Great points. And the takeaway is definitely that you want it to be kind of building community, forming kind of a different relationship. So I appreciate that so much. We have about 4 more questions. So kind of speed round, if you're cool with that. We got 10 minutes to go. Michelle, this is all money. Sorry. Anyway, so Everett asked a great question. Can you give us a couple examples of really effective call-ins or call to actions, as you call them, CTAs, as marketers like to abbreviate? He says he's doing both of those, but would like some help on really driving traffic to his site. So that's the objective: drive traffic.
But what's his site? What space is he in?
Everett, I think if you could just add a little information there in the chat, or type an answer to that in your question, that would be great. Maybe in general, Michelle, are there any basic things about calls to actions that you can share as we stand by for Everett, if he's still here with us?
I think it really depends on the space that you're in. So it depends on the space you're in, the type of what are you wanting them to do. So if I am talking about my Colorado site, if I have a call to action on my Colorado site, and I'm doing a post on hiking, it could be let's go hiking, let's get hiking, and that could be going to a informative resource on hiking. So it has to be very specific to the space that they're in, and that's why I'm asking. What's auto looks? Is that cards?
Yeah, auto looks, and I think just 1 or 2 call to action samples, and then we can move on to the next 4 questions.
So it could be are you ready to get on the road with me? Being fun. People too uptight about this kind of stuff. So what I would say is, I would be get on the road with me, and the resource would be, I don't know, something to help them get on the road. I don't know. I have a lot of fun with fun random naming stuff. So just have fun with it, I guess, would be my my tip. Don't be uptight about it. Just have fun. If I were in a Tesla, don't get burned because the batteries exploded.
Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, exactly. I really appreciate that.
Sorry.
I'm hearing a sense of play. I'm hearing make it personal, make it unique to you, show your personality. You don't have to be a LinkedIn TED Talk influencer all the time. I love that. Yes, everybody's loving that tip too. Michelle's giving people permission to be authentic, the marketing buzzword of the day. Everett, thank you so much for that great question. And please do feel free, if you want to continue the conversation, Everett, to go onto Slack and chit chat with folks. I'm sure people have a lot of fun coming up with this stuff. We have another great question from Chris from Chicago. Sorry, I had
Chicago. I was just there this weekend.
I'm from the Midwest, so I appreciate our accents here. Chris does not have that accent, by the way. My biggest challenge to monetization is time. said everyone ever. Are there any revenue share kinds of services or ways to tackle the time issues? Because Michelle, I was hearing 100-hour weeks when you're describing everything.
No. You guys are wrong, and I'll tell you why. It's systems, it's not time. So the issue is systems. So I'm going to just be blunt. So for right now, I'm doing affiliate marketing as part of how I'm monetizing. When I'm creating content, I have literally five affiliates that I'm always sharing on my Colorado site, on my personal finance site. So my personal finance site has 5 specific affiliates for personal finance. I need to be clear. The Colorado site, 5 specific to Colorado and the content there. The one, the brand building lab, I have 5 specific affiliates for that, right? That's just part of the flow of work. So I already know that I'm going to add those affiliates in that content in some sort of way. You just need a logistics structure so that you're not sitting there in the moment when you're creating content trying to figure it out. And I think that's where most people get it wrong. Also, I batch my work. I'm not trying to work all day long. I don't do 100-hour day weeks, none of that. Like, I batch my work. I have a lot systems set up. So if I know that I'm trying to, again, if I'm trying to get more downloads, the call to action would be to get people to download everything that I'm doing is focused on that one thing. And that's why I was saying that the mistake is that people are doing multiple goals versus understanding that all their actions must focus on the one goal. So if I know that I'm trying to monetize, then everything that I'm doing within my logistics structure is to drive monetization. So I think most people, if they sit down and work through what that looks like, that cuts down on time because you don't have to sit there in the moment and think of it. I don't, like, every week when I do content, I don't sit there and go, well, how do I do this? It's already set. And so I'm not thinking hard about it. So I'm in the mountains for the next 3 days. I'm going to blaze through a whole bunch of work because I batch and I'm ready. I'm done. And I'll be done for like a month and a half. So I think that's the other thing. You need to work smart and not like try to guess as you go along. So just, by the way, I'm going to set aside another time, Amanda, for Q&A because this got kind of messed up. And if people want to do that, they're very welcome to do that with me. I'll chat with you.
Oh my gosh, that's so generous of you, Michelle. And Michelle is a TPA member, so you know where to get at her. I love that. Thank you so much. And I think you shared that advice, batching, work streams, repurposing content. So every single piece of content has multiple uses, multiple ways to appropriate so that you don't have to create original stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, I don't repurpose as much as most people. What I do is evergreen content. So evergreen content is huge, whether you're fiction or nonfiction. So an example of, I alluded to this in the workshop, which is content design. So how are you designing your content in order to meet the end goal that you have? And that is something that I feel like not enough podcasters really spend enough time thinking about. So I'm going to give an example, which is, it feels random, but it'll make sense in a second. So I'm in the personal finance space. One of the topics that comes up is billionaires. People always have thoughts about billionaires. So I did a podcast episode about Rihanna, actually. And the podcast is called "Are Billionaires Evil? Even Rihanna," because Rihanna became a billionaire. So anytime Rihanna does anything, I can share that episode. Anytime billionaires comes up, share that episode. So in that sense, I can repurpose it, but it's evergreen. And so I think the other part is when you guys are designing your content, really think about SEO and content design so that Rihanna is completely a search term, right? Because she's always out there. She's about to have her baby again. So I could do the whole thing on generational wealth within communities. So like there's so much that could happen with that. I did one on Prince Harry and Meghan, and they will forever be a term. And theirs is the making of $1 billion brand within the name of the title of that podcast episode. So when you're designing your content, like sit down and be thoughtful. It's just don't wing it. I think that the whole thing is don't wing it. If you're winging it, you're not going to get the results that you want.
Absolutely.
it.
Intentionality is that is the lesson learned. And I think there's a lot of other really exciting topics to explore here. I've met a podcaster who has created the most sophisticated Airtable ever that automates things, such as literally creates show notes based on the stuff on the table. I do have plans to put them in front of here. So again, Chris, I think that the takeaways have definitely been like, think about the type of content, the investment of the time, and then think about, how many ways could that be used to leverage and drive towards growth. So Michelle, thank you so much. You're back with us again. Yay. We missed you. We got
Yes.
one more to go.
Man?
We'll wrap up. There was another question in the chat, but it just didn't make it here. And I think I cannot find it. So Sean, thank you for your patience. You are the final question of this speed around.
Go, Sean.
I work primarily with nonprofits who are particular about what brands they want to work with. How would you approach monetization? What do they call that? Brand safety? Is that part of brand safety? I don't know. Anyway, please continue, Michelle.
Ironically, that's one of the pieces of content I'm working on in the next couple of days is discernment. So that should be a core part of your content values and just how you approach your brand and who you work with. You should not be working with just anyone. You should be vetting all of them. You should be, so a good example is that young lady who did that brand partnership with Shein. I'm not going to talk geopolitical, politics, but it's very unfortunate what's going on with her because it's very clear that she doesn't understand some of the things that happened with her as a spokesperson. You should have a list of do's and don'ts behind the scenes of who you would work with, what you would say yes to, what you would say no to. An example is I do personal finance content. I absolutely do not work with any payday loan providers. I don't work with any platforms that I think are a little suspect. I don't do anything that would endanger my mother. If it doesn't meet my friends, I would recommend this to my friends or my mother. You should not be working with it. If they are not transparent, you shouldn't be working with
it. Thank you again for your patience. Michelle likes to keep it really exciting by dropping in and out. You never know. That's another way to stoke excitement and keep people engaged. Am I right? She's doing this on purpose, is what I'm trying to say. I definitely appreciate that question, Sean. And if we do, thank you for the laugh, JD. I try. If you do have continued questions, she's back. Michelle, you were just wrapping up your comments. I love that rule. If it would hurt my mom, if it would hurt people I care about, then we're not doing it. Sean, that's really important. And it's a good conversation to have had. He's appreciating that advice. So, folks, we are at the top of the hour. I want to thank you, Michelle, so much for being here. Everybody give a big virtual round of applause to Michelle. You've been getting a lot of shine in the comments, rightly earned. Speaking of earnings, this has been money. So I'm bringing it back to you, Michelle. and everybody, I will follow through on making sure to make Michelle honest on this offering for maybe a live Slack Q&A for the TPA members. Folks, this is
please do that.
Absolutely.
So Amanda, I will arrange that and we'll do that.
Yes, thank you so much. That's on the record. We're still recording. So folks, it's been a pleasure and a joy. For those of you still sticking around, I would love to hear how this went for you. Go to tinyurl.com/TPA exit web. Let us know how this went for you, what you'd like to see more of. One thing that people have been asking for is what the heck is going on and how do you pitch right now with everything that's going on, which is also an evergreen comment if there ever was one. Please do register for our next event next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific time. That is going to be a great chat with Natalie Mualem at SiriusXM, Paul B. Anderson of Workhouse Media, facilitated by one of our amazing TPA board members, Sierra Reed, who has also worked in the business side of things in the podcasting world. And you can absolutely come with this lens of monetization because that is absolutely the question that people are asking over there in those networks. It's been, again, such a joy to have you. We are grateful to have you here. I'm going to drop this link into the chat, and I really hope that we can have you here again with us. Welcome. Please join TPA if you're not already a member. We would love to have you here. Alone, we know a little. Together, we know a lot. I've been Amanda. Michelle's been amazing. You've all been wonderful. I'm going to wrap this meeting now. But anyway, we will see you all on the chat. Thank you very, very much and have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye now.